The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Once again, we have Jesus talking about the crops. As you may recall, last week, he was talking about the seed that fell on the path, in the rocky soil, among the weeds, and then in the good soil. This week, he was talking about weeds. He talks about the kingdom of heaven as a time when the harvest is divided from the weeds. And he says, don't bother early on. You might do more damage than good from plucking out the weeds from the wheat. So you know what? We will sift the weeds from the wheat once the growing season is over. And that sounds like sensible advice to me, especially because Jesus was talking at a time when pesticides weren't a thing. I figure there's only so much weeding a farmer could have done back then before it stopped doing him any good. That's also an appropriate metaphor for society, because just like the field, we're mixed. There are weeds and wheat all over the place. As long as there is sin, there will be weedy people, fully, completely weeding the field of society is just not possible. Jesus' advice seems to be the most sensible. The true division between the righteous and the unrighteous will only be complete at the harvest, the kingdom of heaven. And we know that because nothing sinful gets into heaven. If heaven is a garden, it is 100% weed-free. So the good news, the reason for hope in all of this is all of these compromises between good and evil that we need to deal with here on earth, all of that will come to an end. On earth, bad people tend to have the ability to blend in with good people. They hide behind their money, their fame, their reputation, whatever. And they think that they can get away with whatever they want as long as they seem to be good, as long as they seem to be part of society. But the sifting of the weeds and the wheat will happen. In Christianity, we call that the final judgment. God does not judge by appearances. A weed that looks like wheat is still a weed. And God is a master gardener. So it's important that we live our lives truly as spiritual wheat, where it matters the most. Because weeds, they thrive pretty easily. There is temptation to be a weed. Life seems to be remarkably easy for a weed. They reproduce in the blink of an eye. They can survive a very good amount of pesticide and poison. There is apparently no getting rid of them. But the problem is that weeds have no life within them besides their own survival. They don't feed the people. They don't produce anything useful. They just take the nutrients they need to survive, often at the expense of the other plants. Elsewhere in the gospel, Jesus teaches us that if you do not belong to the Father, you do not have life within you. Sure, you have life within you in that you're breathing and that your heart is beating, but that's about it. You have enough life within you to make it to tomorrow morning. But the irony of life is that bare minimum living is not what life is about. Not what it's really about. We have life within us. when we generously give of ourselves for another, that means being a parent, being a teacher or a role model, suffering or sacrificing your time for another, being a part of something bigger than yourself. That is when divine life shines within you. That is where you bear good fruit, the fruits of the Spirit. And you no longer live your life the way a weed does, because weeds don't produce fruit. That truth has lain hidden and waiting from the foundation of the world, and it will be made clear to you, and you will shine in the kingdom of heaven like the sun, and you will truly be good seed that produces good fruit.